Hello and welcome into the WK page. I am George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here for Weather Now Kentucky. Let me have a mic set up here. Might actually help if I pull it up a little bit. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? But again, hello. We are live on both YouTube and Facebook this evening as always. So if I'm responding to comments that you're not necessarily seeing, don't worry. It's probably just on the other platform. Of course, as you're coming in, make sure you say hello. I can greet you as you come in, see who all is hanging out here with us, getting their update from us. I appreciate that. We do have a concerning batch of storms this evening that will push through the state late tonight going into the overnight hours. We're going to discuss that. What we're going to show you on this video is our forecast, the National Weather Service's forecast, raw model data, and what is going on currently. So we have a few different things to look at here, and I think it's important to look at multiple forecasts for tonight. And for the first time in a while, the National Weather Service and us here at WNK actually agree on something. So pretty good agreement here on the system across multiple broadcast services tonight. So we're going to show you their forecast as well as ours so you can get a better idea of what to expect on everything. So once again, if you are just now tuning in, make sure you're saying hello as you come in on both YouTube and Facebook so I can greet you all. Of course, also, if you would not mind, tap the share button at the bottom portion of your screen there. It's just a big share. Really important, really important for this video specifically. Once again, when you're dealing with storms, especially strong storms that are coming in late at night, going into the overnight hours when most folks are sleeping or kind of caught off guard, we want to make sure we're getting them as much information as possible. So if you wouldn't mind, share the video on your news feed so that way your friends and family can view it as well. I would appreciate that. I'm sure they would appreciate that. And we'll get the video rolling when we get to about 50 shares. So thank you so much for your all's help with that. Over there on Facebook, on YouTube, you can share and copy the link and send it to whoever you like. Not really a news feed that you can share it to. Thank you for all the stars. Thank you for, there's so many people already. Thank you guys so much for your trust, especially on a night like tonight where things can get pretty dangerous for some folks. And I'm not saying that to scare people. I want to put that out there very quickly. I've seen some comments. And, there's always a few trolls, and we don't really mind them. But I just want to say real quickly, we don't give you these forecasts to scare you. That we don't benefit anything from that. And quite frankly, it would just be straight up cruel if we did something like that. Now, what we do is we give you the forecast that looks most likely to occur, and we hope for things to trend in a more safe direction. This is one of those forecasts that I wouldn't mind if I was wrong on and it trended a little bit safer and things kind of busted, if you will. So if that's the case, then we'll be happy with it. But what we do is for situations like tonight, forecast to you the most reasonable scenario based upon what we're seeing on data, and hope for the best. Thank you guys for all of your stars that you're sending on Facebook. I see all of them. I will thank you all here in just a second. I appreciate that. Thank you for all the shares. We're actually already almost to 70 shares. Thank you so much for your help with that. Again, the shares obviously help us a little bit, but more so than anything, they help get many people that don't necessarily know what's going on. If you went outside today, you wouldn't really know there are storms coming tonight. So it helps us to keep more people informed. That's why we go live on multiple platforms as well, trying to reach as many people as possible. Tara on YouTube, hello, how are you doing? Cody, hello. Dylan, Karen, Deb, Kayla, hello. How are you guys doing? Oh my goodness. Brenda, Dana, Anna, Kayla again says she shared. Thank you very much. And Age over there on YouTube, thank you guys for tuning in on Facebook. Sharon, how are you doing? Welsh says she's watching from the high school district playoff game. Hopefully your team wins. I appreciate you tuning in while you can. Jason, thank you for your 20 stars. Let's see. Who else did I miss? I know someone else sent some as well. Jason with another. I don't know why it's being so weird like that. I can really see the star amount. Thank you for the 20 stars. I appreciate you there again as well. And I'm sure I missed some. Thank you guys a lot for your all support. All right, we'll get about 30 more seconds, and then we'll dive into the information. Once again, I'm going to show you our forecast, the National Weather Service's forecast, as well as actual model data as well, and the current conditions, radar, temperatures, and stuff like that. So quite a few things to look at here tonight. I'm actually going to turn on the alert volume because it's kind of going off in my ear like crazy. And of course, I can't turn it down. Awesome. Okay, let's roll into this. I want to appreciate once again. I want to say that we will do a little Q&A toward the end. I won't do a whole lot just because, again, it's not necessarily a snow event or nothing like that, so there's not really a whole lot of questions to answer. It's just kind of paying attention to the forecast details as we go. I want to say as well, there are going to be little dry slots within a thin line of storms. So just because we forecast, for example, I'll show you real quickly and I'll explain it again later. Just because we forecast an entire area right here of red does not mean every single person inside of that count or inside of that shade is going to see, the most bang severe weather. It basically just means that that's the general area for the conditions of that severe weather. And of course, I'll break this down here in just a moment. I don't want to skip ahead too much, but I just wanted to break that down for you real quickly. Thank you again to everyone tuning in. Let's roll into the information here. So this is your live radar at the moment. You can see not a whole lot happening. We do have some rain showers going on here towards south central and southeastern Kentucky. Those will kind of just fade their way on out toward eastern Kentucky. This is not the system that we're talking about. This is just a result of a lot of moisture that's in the atmosphere. If you walked outside today, you noticed that it felt mostly like late April, early May outside. It was very muggy, especially for February conditions. I know for a lot of us in Kentucky, we think of today, it's not super muggy out there, but for February it is. And then we kind of just look around here. Snow going on up here toward the northern Midwest and north central portions of the country. A big tornadic outbreak is going on up here toward the Chicago metro. We feel bad for them. It's actually part of our same system, by the way. Our low pressure for our system, if I can turn this on, is actually a result of this low pressure that's up here toward Chicago, going toward northern Indiana and out to the Great Lakes. And then as a result of that, storms are popping out toward Missouri, and those will eventually filter in more toward southern Illinois and Indiana, and eventually they will actually turn and drop down toward Kentucky. And it's that turn that brings us our strong to severe weather risk. So let's go ahead and pull this out. And so that's kind of your current radar. Nothing really a whole lot happening there. Let's look at the current temperatures real quickly. If you can't see this, no worry. Mostly for western Kentucky, low to mid 70s there, mostly low 70s. Upper or mid to upper 60s actually for central Kentucky. So I will say that for western Kentucky, you're running about 2 to 3 degrees colder, which I know is kind of hard to understand because it's still warm for February. But you're actually running about 2 to 3 degrees colder than what model data showed us for this time frame. For central Kentucky, you're actually running about 2 to 3 degrees warmer than what model data indicated. Nothing really comes as a result of that. It's just an interesting note so far. We'll see how that trends throughout the night. For eastern Kentucky, you are in the low 60s, in some places all the way into the upper 50s. And of course, that's for the higher elevations out there toward the mountains. What I want to show you tonight that we're going to be actually debuting here on the page, and what we had some people reach out to us and ask us to try. These great people out here have actually developed a brand new experimental product. And, we've been watching it. I've been hesitant on trying it, but we've been watching it, and it's handled things really well. And it's starting to uptick. So this is it's called StormNet. It's starting to uptick the tornado probability for a 3-hour period. So basically from now until 3 hours from now. Now, we're not expecting our system to be here until 1 a.m.-ish, lasting to about 5 a.m.-ish. So this really can't see it all full potentially just yet. But you can already see that it's lighting up western Kentucky on a lower end and central Indiana and northern Indiana on a bit of a higher end out there. So interesting to note, this should fill in over the next couple of hours and start to light up more of southern Indiana, especially along the Ohio River, going into northern Kentucky. That's where the prime spot is. And again, if you guys have a lot of questions, don't worry. I'll get to some of them here toward the end of the video. For now, just taking the information that we're talking about here. Oh, real quickly, I forgot to show you this. So before we go into the model data, and again, I'm going to show you the National Weather Service's forecast, and then I'm going to show you our forecast as well. But before we actually get into the model data, I want to take a second and show you the National Weather Service's and make sure you can see it all correctly. You can. Okay, so a level 3 out of 5 risk does exist for right along the Ohio River, like we just mentioned. And hang on, someone's at the door. Give me just 1 second, guys. I'm so sorry about that. So we work with the local emergency offices here in Hardin County and throughout central Kentucky. And one of them was asking a question that happened to live close to me. So I'm sorry about that. I just want to make sure that they got their information as well. So let's pick it back up where we lost everything here. The National Weather Service's forecast here is what we're going to display to you, and then we're going to look at the raw model data, and then we're going to look at our forecast as well. So they have a level 3 out of 5 risk, which is an enhanced risk for right along the Ohio River, just south to about the I-64 line, but a little bit more south than that. So it does include places like Owensboro, just to the north of Madisonville, just to the north of Paducah, Henderson, let's say the Radcliffe area, Louisville, going up just to the north of Lexington and Frankfort, going more toward Cincinnati. A level 2 out of 5 risk does exist for places just south of that. Level 1 out of 5 risk does exist for places just southeast of that, and so on and so forth. That is the general look at things. This is your tornado outbreak, or not outbreak, but tornado outlook. Sorry, very big difference there. So I want to break this down a little bit because a lot of people get confused by this. So these show the different zones of a probability of a tornado within a certain, like within 25 miles of a point, basically within that corridor. So you can see about a 2% risk does exist right around the parkways just south of that, going toward Lexington, just to the north of Bowling Green, and then back out toward Murray and Mayfield. Now, this might get extended out here toward western Kentucky a little bit further. I'll explain that here in just one second. Then they have a 5 to 9% risk just to the north of that, basically for much of Paducah, going toward the central Kentucky portions of the area, and right along the not the but the Western Kentucky parkways. I'm sorry, guys. It's been a long 32 hours. You're going to have to try to bear with me here. And then up toward northeastern Kentucky, a more dangerous zone does exist just to the north of that, and that does include the Ohio River just to the south, Owensboro, Madisonville, very far northern portions of Hardin County, basically West Point, Radcliffe, Fort Knox areas, and then Louisville as well, going more toward that northeastern portion of the state. Now, this hatch zone, so this is so the yellow that you're seeing in the background there, and it's really important to understand this, the yellow that you see in the background there is a 10 to 14% risk of a tornado, just any tornado. The hatched area is a greater than or equal to 10% probability of a significant tornado. A significant tornado is defined as anything between EF2 to EF5. Basically, anything from 120 miles per hour and up. So a nice hatched zone there for much of the Ohio River. Now, this is their forecast that came out around a little bit over an hour ago. Nothing much changed from their previous forecast, kind of like ours, where nothing really much changed with our forecast from the morning update to the afternoon update, and now not a whole lot has changed. Some minor things, but not a whole lot has changed. So that is your tornado outlook. There are other aspects of this as well. The damaging wind threat is by far the greatest threat for Kentucky. So severe wind outlook, it kind of breaks down like this. That brown zone is about a 5 to 14% risk of wind gusts that are greater than 50, I believe it's 55 mile per hour. I believe it's 55. I don't think they changed it. So all these are for 55 mile per hour except for one area, and I'll tell you that in just a second. That yellow zone is a 15 to 29% risk, 55 plus mile per hour wind gust within a certain point as well. That red zone is all the way up to a 30 to 44% risk of 55 plus mile per hour winds. Now, also with this is a hatched area. Now, that is a greater than or equal to 10% risk of 74 mile per hour winds or higher. And I will tell you that based upon what I am seeing, and based upon what a lot of our team is seeing, and a lot of teams across the state, someone, and maybe a few locations, are going to get up to 80 mile per hour winds out of this. Now, that should be closer to the Ohio River. Let's say, now this is not a guarantee, but if I had to put kind of a bullseye on it for now, it's impossible. Before I do this, I want to say it is absolutely impossible to nail where exactly you're going to see the most severe parameters before an event happens. That's the worst thing about severe forecasting, is like you can get a general outlook, but you can't absolutely nail it down to the zip code, okay? By the way, I want to say a quick thank you to everyone that's sharing the video on Facebook. I appreciate your help with that. And all the likes and hearts I'm seeing. You guys rock. Thank you guys a lot for your help. Someone between Henderson to Owensboro, Brandenburg, somewhere along that Ohio River on the western side is going to get up to 80 mile per hour wind gust at some point late tonight going into the overnight hours. Now, that could happen once again up there toward northeastern Kentucky as well. A little bit less favorable conditions for that up there. I think you're more so looking at hail than anything. But as someone that's going to get up at 80-mile-per-hour winds, and I want to just put that into perspective for you. If that was a tornado, I believe that would be EF1 category or EF0 category. So even if it's just straight line winds, right, that could still cause a lot of damages. The hail threat is a lot lower tonight than it was last night. Thankfully, most storms overnight, this morning, stayed really tamed. And the reason for that is because there was a little bit less energy than model data displayed. But for the most part, storms Tuesday morning kind of stayed tamed. Hail threat's a little bit lower tonight. There is a 15 to 29% risk of severe hail, basically north of the parkways, going into northeastern and western and north central Kentucky. 5 to 14% risk just below that. No risk out in southeastern Kentucky. A hash risk does exist for 2-inch diameter hail or greater, just in the north of that, for Owensboro, Madisonville, or just north of Madisonville, I should say, Paducah, and then going north over the river toward Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. So that's your National Weather Service's outlook there. Let's look at model data, and then we'll show you our forecast. There is a brand new run coming in. I have no idea what this looks like because I've been talking with you guys. But let's go ahead and take a look at what it's showing here. I'm going to zoom into the local view so that you can see it a little bit better. Okay, we're going to go. So, again, it sees the kind of the rain showers that we're talking about that we saw on radar just about 10 minutes ago. That has pushed out to the east. And now we're starting to look at the storms that are popping in for the 1 to 6 a.m. time frame. So, something that's super concerning to me, okay? Now, it might not evolve like this, okay? But over the last 5 to 6 runs that, me, Mike, Neil, Cherie, and all of our forecasters have talked about, we've seen more of a popcorn look to the initiation of the storms. Basically, so let me show you what this looked like earlier today. So this was a run that happened. This was 10 runs ago. This is all the way back at about 9 to 10 a.m. So this is what it showed for that same time frame. So this is 1 a.m. Central Time, 2 a.m. Eastern Time. More of a line of storms. This would indicate straight line wind damage, maybe some brief spin-ups, a couple of spots of some large hail, and then it's moving on out. Now, this is a brand new run that's coming in, and you can see the difference. So remember back at 1 a.m. on the other one, it had a strong line of storms. 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. this time, there is not a line, but there are a few cells, and I'm telling you right now, if we get cells that are going to pop up in front of the main line of storms, they are absolutely worth watching. So I want to take a quick moment and tell you, if you don't have fresh batteries in your weather radio, if you don't have a weather radio, you should absolutely get one. As we learned last week, cellular data can go down at any time. So you want to make sure you have multiple ways to get alerts, notifications. Make sure you have notifications turned on for our page here on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, no matter where it's at. And again, I see all of your questions and comments, by the way. I'll get to a little bit of a Q&A toward the end of the video. But I'm telling you right now, if we see cells pop up in front of this line, they're going to tap into all of the juice that's just been building all day long. Now, this isn't to scare anyone. I'm just saying, if we do see that, we'll be on a high alert here behind the desk. And also to note real quickly, if you guys have been a part of our page for long, you know how we do this. We don't let you guys go unnoticed. If you're new to our page, we are live. If there are any life-threatening storms, any tornado warnings, or anything that we feel like might be a danger, we'll be live for the duration of that event or that time frame. So we will be. That's why I'm saying, turn on notifications on YouTube, on Facebook, wherever it is. Make sure you guys get notified when we go live or post. As I push this on forward to 2 a.m. Central Time to 3 a.m. Eastern Time, you can see storms are really beginning to pop. Now, the reason for that is about 7,000 feet up, a big bulk of winds will move its way over Kentucky. And that is the forcing mechanism. So when we're talking about thunderstorms, they have to have let's say a cup of juice, okay? And they have to have something to force that juice to knock over, okay? And start to create. One second. Sorry, I'm in more of a temporary setup at the moment, so there's a lot of commotion going on behind me. We're getting the room redone for. I can't wait to show you guys. Let's just put it like that. But I'm in more of a temporary setup at the moment, so that's why I'm keep having to take some pauses. But where was I at? This is why I don't pause, because my brain just keeps going and I stop. You know what I mean? Okay, so thunderstorms. They have to have a cup of juice to drink, okay? And something has to force that cup of juice into their mouth. Let's just put it that way for very layman's terms. Has to have a cup of juice, and something has to force the storms to go. So we have the cup of juice from the dew points and temperatures that we saw today. Okay, it's warm and moist outside. We know dew points are at about 60 degrees. We know temperatures are at least at mid 60s or higher. So it has some juice to work with. Something has to force those storms to get going. That forcing is going to come from the winds that are about 7 to 10,000 feet above our head. When they get over Kentucky, storms will spark just like that. Okay, so if you want a saving grace tonight, what you're rooting for is less wind speeds above our heads. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's what you're rooting for. So this is 2 a.m. Central Time, 3 a.m. Eastern Time. You can see kind of what I was talking about there. The popcorn kind of style of cells that we're looking at here. These are a bit more concerning than just a line of storms. And the reason for that is a line of storms has to have all that energy spread out to that entire line, okay? So they're usually a little bit more elevated, usually less tornado risk. When you're talking about storms that have gaps in between them, they can tap into more energy because they're not having to share it with an entire line. On the flip side of that, this can be a saving grace as well if inhibition occurs. Basically things that stop storms, convective inhibition, up above our heads in the mid layers. I know I'm kind of losing some people. Basically, this could be a catch-22. This can either save us tonight from having to see, really, really crazy storms, or on the flip side, these can be really, really crazy themselves. I know weather is not the easiest thing in the world to deal with. So as I push this on forward to 3 a.m. Central Time to 4 a.m. Eastern Time, what you're going to start noticing is that these cells that are kind of just all over the place, they're going to start forming more of a line. So right now, this is still around the Ohio River aspect of things, going now toward eastern or chopping down southeastern Kentucky, or south central Kentucky, I should say. This line is starting to curve. We should start seeing more of a straight line as this pushes on through, and that's exactly the case. And once these storms catch up to about the Somerset, Lexington, just past Bowling Green areas, that's where they really begin to fall off from the storm juice. And that's why we have our forecast built this way right here. Let me go ahead and show you this. Our risk areas for tonight, absolutely the highest risk areas toward the Ohio River, including Owensboro, Henderson, going just north of that toward Evansville, Indiana, down to up to South Central Indiana, and then once again over toward Florence and Louisville, including northern portions of Hardin County as well in that Bullitt County. And orange zone, 3 out of 5 risk for us. Now again, National Weather Service, they use their own scale. We use our own scale. Okay, orange zone is absolutely from Paducah to Mayfield and Murray, over to Madisonville, Hopkinsville, northern sides of Hopkinsville, I should say, Litchfield, E-Town, Lexington, places out there toward northeastern Kentucky. That yellow zone, 2 out of 5 risk, very thin line, because once these storms do outrun the moisture, they will fall off very quickly. And we do expect that to occur between Bowling Green, Campbellsville, Danville, Moorhead, Ashland, places out there for those portions of Kentucky. And then once they get past that, they should begin to fall down quickly. Now, I do want to note to you, different portions of the state are going to be looking at more different portions of severe parameters. So, from Louisville to E-Town, toward Owensboro on this western side of I-65, I think you're looking at more of a damaging wind and perhaps a spin-up tornado or two that could turn really strong. Now, that's not saying everyone in that swath is going to see it. That's just the general outlook. If you're east of I-65 in that red zone, basically from the other side of Louisville to Florence, I think you're looking at more of a hail threat, straight line wind damage threat, because once again, storms are a little bit more elevated over there, not as much energy at the surface, but you have energy above your heads. So that means storms are elevated. They're going to be more of a wind threat and hail threat. Same thing can be said for your orange zones as well. So the left half of this orange zone, let's say Litchfield, Madisonville, Hopkinsville, Paducah, I think you're looking at more of a straight line wind damage threat, maybe an isolated, brief, spin up, weaker side of tornado activity there. On the eastern side toward Lexington, places just north of Danville and in between, I think you're looking at more of a isolated small or moderate hail threat as well as damaging straight line winds. Now, I do say once again, that the tornado threat, in my opinion, and now this is just my opinion, I think that's really only isolated for that red zone. Okay, now the orange zone, I have put a small tornado threat with that one as well, but I think if there is a strong tornado or two tonight, and again, strong means EF2 or higher, that would absolutely be in the red zone. I don't think we're looking at strong tornado activity in the orange, yellow, or tan zone, or whatever you want to call that, khaki, I don't know. I don't think we're looking at that. Now, in the orange zone, I think we could still get a brief spin-up tornado or two, but I don't think we're looking at anything that's super strong. I want to note to you once more that even if there is no tornadic activity tonight, the wind gust activity will be elevated. I definitely think portions of that red zone will see 75 plus mile per hour winds for brief periods of times. Now, again, that's not for the entire swath of that red zone, but that is the general placement of it. That orange zone, I think you can go 60 to 65 mile per hour wind gust throughout periods of time as well. That's still above severe level, but not quite as high as, of course, 75. Yellow, I think you can get all the way up to 60. And then khaki or tan, whatever you want to call it. Some people see different colors. I think you can get up to about 55 at the most. Again, main time frame is 12 to 6 a.m. Eastern time. We could, and I will put an asterisk on this, we could see some storms pop up before midnight, around the 10 p.m. time frame. If that does happen, that would probably be out toward western Kentucky for the Paducah and Mayfield areas. And if that does, we will go live immediately because that will be a dangerous storm. So what you're rooting for, guys, tonight is the storms to kind of just keep delaying and keep delaying and keep delaying. Because, yes, they'll have energy no matter what time they start, but the later they start, the less energy they'll have available to them because they're getting out of the heating. Regardless, there's a bunch of moisture out there tonight, and storms can thrive off moisture and wind energy without much CAPE as well. We've learned that in February and January and December before. We've had plenty of times where setups like this, where we've had a lot of shear, we've had a lot of helicity, but almost no CAPE, and we've still had several tornadoes occur, several straight-line wind damages occur, and it's because in winter, a lot of people forget, you don't need the higher CAPE values. You really only need about 300 to 400 plus, and if you get that, you're looking pretty prime for strong to severe weather. So, that said, let's go ahead and pull up to the full cam, take a few questions now. I appreciate everyone tuning in on both YouTube and Facebook. We're not going to run any ad slots tonight because this is a critical video. Our sponsors know that a critical video means no ad slots. That's why we did ads last night for them. So we appreciate, give a quick shout out just real quickly to Affordable Dentures and Implants, Right Implement, Box Drop, Bar Sound, and Romp Festival for all supporting us and being gracious enough to allow us to skip the ad slots tonight. So thank you to them. So, Crystal, I kind of stay away from questions like that because it's really obviously very hard to predict power outages. It all depends on how well your stuff was built, yada, yada, yada. But I do think several power outages could occur tonight, so make sure generators are gassed up, oiled up, and ready to go. On YouTube, let's see here. Angel says she's going to just sleep in going to go ahead and just sleep in her tornado shelter. That's probably a good idea. You know, and that's the mindset to have, guys. You always want to prepare for the worst. We forecast for, I'm not going to lie, what a lot of people do is forecast for the semi-worst scenario, not the absolute worst scenario, but the semi-worst scenario, because it allows people to get that higher sense of urgency. Because we've seen several times where, you know, many people have forecasted lower than expectation or right at expectation, and a couple storms went above expectation, and lives were lost. Kind of happened in Mayfield a little bit a couple years ago. So ever since then, what we do is kind of forecast for the, not the absolute worst, but the semi-worst solution that we see throughout data, and we hope for better trends. Could this storm system shift? Stacy, I don't think so. We're really on par. I will say real quickly as well that long range, medium range, and short range model data has been super consistent with this over the last 48 hours. The only thing that has really occurred in the last 48 hours is a very small, subtle shift of the low pressure. So our low pressure that's carrying the storm is actually all the way up in northern Illinois. Okay. The only thing that's occurred is that low pressure has shifted about 50 miles southwest, which hasn't really changed a whole lot of anything. The only thing that's really changed is the initiation time of the storm. So there's really not been any major changes over the last 36 hours. The reason that forecast looked a lot different yesterday for like us and National Weather Service and as opposed to today, it's because there's confidence. Not necessarily because anything changed, but because confidence went up. The more you see model data be consistent, the more your confidence goes up, the more your forecast goes up. So nothing's really changed. I don't expect any major changes between now and 4 or 5 hours from now. The only thing that's going to change is my mood. It's been a long 36 hours. So unless the storm pops up in Western Kentucky, I think BG would be pretty much fine. Yeah, I think Bowling Green's a little bit far south of the actual main pool of energy. Now, again, I want to say once more for places like Bowling Green, Hopkinsville, let's throw Murray into that bottom little slant of the state there. And the only thing that can make that area a little bit more severe is if a cell or two pops up in front of the main line of storms. If it goes as planned, I think you're on the lower end of the severe risk, but you can still see a couple of severe cells. Okay, we're getting really specific on the zip codes and stuff now. I try to stay away from that with severe weather because you're asking for trouble at that point. 1 second, let me check on YouTube side of things. Local 911 comm center here in northeastern Illinois has issued tornado alert for Will County near Chicago. Yeah, I hope they stay safe up there. On this channel, though, we focus just on Kentucky. But I appreciate you tuning in, Chicago Mark, and I hope you guys stay safe up there. What's the best phone app for alerts here? So the coolest thing about having smartphones is that you have emergency alerts built into the phone, so you don't necessarily need an app. So that's why when I see people like, I'm not going to mention names. Never mind. John, thank you for the 200 stars. I appreciate you, my friend. So a lot of new people are tuning in real quickly. I just want to pull up our forecast image once more. I just want to pull up my forecast image once more. This is your stars in my mind. John's got me feeling good with the stars. Thank you, John. This is our forecast map. Once again, the higher zone is absolutely toward the Ohio River, northern portions of Hardin County, toward Owensboro, Henderson, Louisville, Florence, and that portion of the area. Orange, Paducah, Hopkinsville, Madisonville, or just south of Paducah. Madisonville, Hopkinsville, Litchfield, Eatown, Lexington. That area is at a 3 out of 5 risk. So a little bit less severe weather. I should say a little bit less severe parameters, but still expecting a few severe cells in that area as well. Oh my goodness. Samantha, thank you for keeping us safe. She says 200 stars. Thank you so much for that. Patty, thank you for becoming a subscriber. I appreciate your kindness there. Oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher this name. I'm so sorry for this. I'm so sorry for this. You know who you are. Thank you for your 100 stars. I'm not going to get into every single specific small town. The reason for that is when you're forecasting severe weather, you do it within a certain radius of a point. So that's why you saw on every single one of those National Weather Service. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Let's say right here. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this? Yeah, you can. So if you look at the very bottom there, probability of severe wind within 25 miles of a point. You don't forecast for a specific zip, like literally specific towns, because severe weather can move in an instant. Strong weather can move in an instant. You forecast for a general area. So if you're asking for a very small town, I'm probably going to stay away from answering that just because it truly is impossible to put it right on the nose like that. Mariah on YouTube says, I want to thank you for all you do. Been watching for over a year now, and you are my go-to. I appreciate your trust and your confidence. Thank you so much. Rebecca with the 100 stars, thank you so much for your kindness. I appreciate that. And once again, guys, now that we're kind of in the more of the relaxed segment of the video, I want to say once again, thank you guys so much. Truly. Thank you all for all of your trust and support. You know what, we'll be here for you all night. I have 2 monsters ready to go in the fridge. We have coffee on standby. I have a few snacks as well. I've already taken my shower. I've taken 2 naps today after last night's storm. So last night or this morning, I stayed up until 7 a.m. and then kind of like the backup team came in, but nothing really happened. And then, I took a little bit of a nap for about 3 hours, woke up, forecasted this storm, and then took a nap between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. or 6:45 p.m. And now we're up for the night until about 7 a.m. tomorrow. So you guys know, no matter what, we are here for you. So you don't have to go through this alone. If it does get dangerous, does get scary out there, especially for places in that red zone, just know we are here. Okay? You're not going to be alone. I know sometimes these big stations can forget about smaller areas. That's not what we do. You guys know how we do. John, thank you for your... Why does it keep doing that? Thank you for your 100 stars. Thanks for the updates. I appreciate that, my friend. What time frame? So we're looking at mainly a 12 to 6 a.m. time frame. Now that's a very broad time frame. That's again because we don't know if it's going to be one general line of storms, or if we're going to see a little bit of a popcorn style and then a line, or if we're just going to see popcorn. So that's why we have a very broad time frame there. Now I want to say once again real quickly, It's not going to storm in everyone's area for that entire 6-hour span. That's a generic time frame to cover any type of style storms that might push through there. So tornado threat overall, guys, tornado threat overall, I really agree. I truly agree. Let me make sure they haven't pushed out a new update yet. Okay, they haven't. Perfect. I truly agree with the National Weather Service's tornado outlook. So if you're asking me about tornadic activity and stuff, let me go ahead and zoom in on this for you because I want you to kind of just see a little bit better here. Let me make sure you guys can see this. Okay, you can. Perfect. Take a drink of water. So again, one of the rare times the National Weather Service and I agree on something. Garrett, thank you for your 100 stars. I appreciate that. Thank you for your kindness. The tornado outlook, I think they absolutely nailed it. I truly do. Now, some things have changed a little bit since then. I think they could extend that Western Kentucky side down just a little bit, but you're really pulling hairs at that point. That's why I tell you guys as well, when we do make these maps, we are human beings, okay? Especially for our maps. We don't auto-generate our maps. I hand draw them each time on an app on the computer here, okay? So they're not going to be 1,000% perfect. So if you're trying to split hairs, and people do this a lot during winter, but if you're trying to split hairs on, like let's say you're Cecilia, right? And if you're in Cecilia, you know what I'm talking about. It's just south of E-Town. It would be literally right on the green and brown line. So if you're trying to split hairs on exactly where you're at on that color, just know that a human made that, okay? So it might not be exactly like to the point. So what I tell folks to usually do, and what's a great piece of advice, is if you are trying that hard to split hairs, take a median of the two zones. So for example, if I'm on that line of that green and brown right there, and the green is a 2 to 4% risk, that brown is a 5 to 9% risk, I probably know I'm at about a 4.5% risk if I'm taking the middle of those two zones, right? So don't try to split hairs over the exact little color that's over your speck of the image on the screen. Just try to take a median. So once again, I think the highest tornado threat is absolutely along the Ohio River and then into northwestern Kentucky from Owensboro, northern Madisonville, going up toward very far northern portions of Hardin County, Louisville, and then going up toward very, very northeastern portions and north central portions, I should say, of Kentucky there. Tornado threat really drops off and you start turning into more of a damaging wind threat. I want to caution you again, you need to pay attention to the severe thunderstorm warnings that come out tonight. Usually a severe thunderstorm warning comes out for 60-mile-per-hour winds. We are all pretty accustomed to that. Really not a massive deal if you get 60-mile-per-hour winds. Yes, they can get dangerous. They can blow a few limbs over. Really, though, if we're being honest, 60 mile per hour is not a massive deal as long as you're just in your house, right? And for most people, at about 1 to 5 a.m., you're in your house. So it's not going to be a massive deal. But for tonight, we're talking about wind gusts that can go all the way up to 75, even 80 mile per hour in some of the stronger ones, and those can absolutely cause more damages, right? So I want to make sure everyone's paying attention tonight. I know how we can do as human beings. We kind of just look over the severe thunderstorm warning and we go right to, okay, is it a tornado or not? But tonight, more specifically, you need to pay attention to all the warnings that come across, not just the tornado ones. So, yes, I want to ask, Zach said, will tornadoes be traveling south if they spin up? Overall, the storm motion is going to be southeast, right? But eventually, and that's why we have these zones here, eventually, as they start getting more and more southeast, they're running out of the better moisture areas, which means they will begin to weaken, which is why you see on the National Weather Service's forecast there, they have almost no risk down here towards southeastern Kentucky. All the risk is up toward northwestern. And on our forecast is pretty much the same thing, which is why I was saying, it's generally the same look. Now, we created this forecast all the way back at 3 o'clock this afternoon. They created their forecast literally 45 minutes ago. So, again, really good agreement on things. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Oh, I missed some stars. Sent 20 stars about a minute ago. Thank you so much for your stars. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your kindness. Kayla sent 50 stars. Thank you so much. I don't know. I'm kind of in a temporary setup at the moment, so I'm having to squint all the way over to my other monitor. Again, we're working on something really cool, guys. We're working on something really cool, but it's going to take some time. I can't wait to show you guys what we're working on. I was in the room where my son's nursery now is, and that looks awesome. But now we're taking another room, completely gutting it, and making it into an actual weather studio. And it's going to look really cool. But in the meantime, we're kind of just out here in the living room with everyone else, hanging out. But you still get the same great quality. Thank you for your hard work, George, is what Kayla said. Thank you so much, Kayla. I appreciate your support as always. And if I miss any more stars, I'm so sorry. Thank you guys for your kindness. I appreciate that. What's the difference between supercell and linear as far as tornadic activity? That's a great question, Katie. Supercells are smaller cells that are more spaced out. They can have more energy applied to them. That's why you typically see them turn more tornadic or more larger in hell size. They're closer to the ground. They have a lot more surface energy to play with. Linear cell or linear line of storms. Linear just basically means a line of storms, and that's where you usually get your QLCS events, basically meaning quasi-linear convective systems. Those are usually your line of storms that create damaging wind threats and hail threats with a small spin-up tornado potential within. So two different types of storms. Not a lot of people know that. It's a great question, by the way. Not a lot of people know there's different types of thunderstorms. Carolyn, thank you for your 100 stars. I appreciate that. So the National Weather Service, this is the National Weather Service's tornado outlook. They have their tornado outlook for all of Louisville, going down toward northern portions of Hardin County, northern portions of Bullock County, and then, of course, along the Ohio River and wider out there for western Kentucky. Where do you see the dry spots forming? It's absolutely impossible to pick those up at this time. Just know that there will be dry spots, and that is what creates the more popcorn look of these storms that we're looking at. Again, if you don't know what I mean by popcorn, let me go ahead and pull it up for you. You can see it right there, actually. So this is the newest run of model data that's coming in now. You can see it's more kind of like what I said, kind of like a popcorn look to it. More space in between because dry slots are developing above our head. A little bit of dry air is pushing in, but that's actually what's helping to force the winds to go greater. So a lot of different things at play here. Got a lot of different things at play here. We're talking about moisture coming up from the Gulf. We're talking about when you walk out the door tomorrow morning, it's going to be 40 degrees colder than it was today because of cold fronts absolutely smashing through the area as well. There's a lot of different things at play. You got dry air at different layers of the atmosphere, very moist layers at different, or very moist atmospheric layers as well. It's a lot. It's a lot. So this is how it looks on the newest model run. Now let's take us back to earlier today, and you'll see more of a linear look on what that person was asking about. So let's push this on through here. You can see more of a line, and then once they get connected, and congeal is actually the word, you can see more of a line of storms. Now, that will happen again, but as it starts, you can see the difference is more space in between each cell. So this tells us that cells might be a little bit closer to the ground, more supercells may be possible, and then eventually that will congeal together and create that line. And as it pushes out to the southeast there, and then it becomes just big old thunder showers for southeastern Kentucky. That's why we don't really have a risk out there for them for many things. What in the world is going on in the Facebook chat? Did I just say something about kitten fuzz? If we had heat today and sun, would there have been more calls for stronger storms? Angie, typically you would be correct. But on a day like today, something that we're talking about for these storms is moisture and more wind-driven, less cape or heat-driven. So actually the clouds help to prevent what we call overmixing to occur. So the clouds actually helped the severe parameters come up a little bit today. Now, if there were some peaks of sunshine and temperatures got to go up a little bit more, absolutely, it would have probably helped create more cape, but you also would have been at risk of overmixing, which would have allowed this to just been flat out big thunder showers and big boomer thunder showers, like big lightning, big thunder, not really a whole lot of severe weather, just looked more gnarly than it actually was. Katie, not necessarily more energy for tornadic activity, just more space for them to work with versus what was showing earlier today. How long have we been live for, by the way? Am I over my limit? Oh my goodness, I am over my limit by 15 minutes. I try to keep these at 30 minutes because I like to go look at new data. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to cut it off. Okay, I will tell you that if you did miss any of the information in here, if you're just now tuning in, whatever may be the case, okay, so I thought I missed something there. This video will be on our YouTube and Facebook here in about a few minutes after it processes, and it'll upload there. You can see all the information. Also, our forecast hasn't really changed very much from the last update we did at 3:45, so you can go back on our Twitter, on our Facebook, and see a written version if you want to read it instead of watch it. That's there as well, so everyone can have their favorite thing to do. Okay, if there's any life-threatening or dangerous situations that are developing later tonight, we will be live for the duration of that. So make sure you have our notifications turned on. If you don't know how to do that, go to the top of the Facebook page, hit the little drop-down menu, and you should see an option to turn notifications on. The easiest way to actually do it is, instead of following the page, like the page on Facebook. On YouTube, you know what to do. Ring that bell. Twitter, you know what to do as well there. Turn on the notifications up at the top of the page. I want to thank you guys again. We will be here with you guys. I want you guys to know that. I know a lot of people have storm anxiety because of what's happened in the last few winters in Kentucky. I want to say this does not compare to 2021 where Mayfield had that EF4 tornado. This is not compared to 2012 where a lot of folks in Kentucky and southern Indiana saw a lot of tornadic activity and very strong tornadic activity. I will say there is a chance for this to bust, okay? That chance comes in the way of storm energy maybe not being as much as forecasted. I don't know. I have to go look at it. But I will say we will be here with you guys, okay? So you don't have to be alone. Make sure you just check us out. Until then, was it 2012? Well, yeah, it was 2021. Yes, it was. Yeah, I know. Don't remind me, please. Anyway, I'm out. Guys, stay safe. I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with WK. Until next time, stay safe, Kentucky.